When divers embark on thrilling underwater adventures, they seldom imagine their journey will end in tragedy. But deep below the surface of Eldudu Lagoon lies a vast and treacherous labyrinth, a place where even the most experienced can get lost. This is the story of Carlo Barbieri and Carlo Basso, whose quest for exploration turned into a desperate struggle for survival. Welcome to Shadows of Tragedy. Carlo Basso was a man of many pursuits. He was not only an adventurous diver, but also a former American football player for the Venice Islanders in Italy. Off the field, he was a devoted father of two and ran a successful diving business. His love for exploration extended far beyond sports, and he embraced every opportunity to seek out the unknown. Carlo Barbieri, his close friend and fellow diver, shared that same passion for discovery. An experienced diver, Barbieri had explored many local diving spots and had a deep appreciation for the underwater world. Although he wasn't familiar with Eldudu's complex cave system, he was excited to venture into its depths with his friend and see what lay beyond the surface. The first part of Eldudu Lagoon, known as the Cavern Area, is a favorite among divers. Natural light filters down through the water, illuminating the stunning underwater landscape and making it an inviting spot for beginners. But as divers reach the cavern's bottom, the environment becomes more foreboding, with shadows creeping across the rocky floor. It is here that the entrance to the notorious tunnel awaits, marked by multiple warning signs cautioning against the dangers that lie ahead. The tunnel's entrance feels like the mouth of a beast, with narrow, twisting walls that seem to close in as divers swim deeper. Inside, the cave zone opens up into an otherworldly landscape of beautiful rock formations and towering columns, some reaching heights of 49 feet. The darkness and intricate structures create an intimidating maze, a place where the line between wonder and danger is razor thin. At the end of the tunnel lies an air pocket, a rare refuge where divers can briefly surface to catch their breath. But it's a deceptive sanctuary, offering no escape from the cave's grasp. To the right of the air pocket lies the entrance to the true cave zone. The passages stretch on for approximately 45 minutes of swimming, leading to the entrance of Lily's cave. But before reaching this point, divers must first navigate past a narrow, uncharted passage, a nameless corridor believed to be a dead end. Its tight confines and jagged walls create an environment where a single misstep could seal a diver's fate. It was at this point that everything went wrong. Barbieri and Basso made a wrong turn into the uncharted passage, where the twisting, jagged walls made it easy to lose one's way. What should have been a straightforward dive quickly turned into a deadly miscalculation. At 5 p.m., as the sun dipped lower in the sky, Carlo Barbieri and Carlo Basso prepared to embark on their dive. The lagoon was calm, its glassy waters undisturbed by even the slightest ripple. It was a scene that would have put any diver at ease, and after thoroughly checking their gear and making sure everything was in place, the two friends felt ready. Satisfied with their preparations, they took the plunge, slipping into the tranquil waters of Eldudu. The initial descent was uneventful, almost peaceful, with the natural light still reaching down from above. For the first few moments, everything felt perfectly normal, as though they were diving into any other underwater world. But as they descended further, the light from above faded away, leaving only darkness behind. It was a darkness that neither of them may have fully anticipated. Their flashlights pierced through the gloom, revealing stunning rock formations and odd-looking fish that seemed to float like shadows in the water. It was a mesmerizing scene, almost surreal, but there was no mistaking that they were leaving behind the safety of the cavern area. As Barbieri and Basso approached the entrance to the tunnel, they were met with the stark presence of multiple warning signs. Each one bore a simple but unmistakable message. The dangers of the cave lay beyond. The signs seemed to hover in the water, an ominous reminder that this was no ordinary dive. But the two friends, confident in their skills and excited by the adventure, pressed on. The path forward led them past the signs, and with each stroke, they ventured deeper into the tunnel's shadowy embrace. The 49-foot towering column loomed in the darkness, surrounded by jagged walls that seemed to close in around them. Despite the intimidating surroundings, Barbieri and Basso continued, their flashlights illuminating the eerie beauty of the cave's formations. The darkness only made the intricate rock structures and unusual fish more fascinating, adding to the sense of discovery. As they moved further in, the cave seemed to come alive around them. The silence interrupted only by the sound of their breathing and the occasional flicker of a fish darting by. It was a world untouched by sunlight, where each turn could unveil a new mystery, or lead deeper into the unknown. Whatever sense of comfort they had felt at the surface was now replaced by the thrill of exploration and the ever-present reality of the risks they were taking. Beyond the towering column, Barbieri and Basso entered the true cave zone, where the environment transformed into a maze of stunning but treacherous beauty. The darkness seemed to press in from all sides, with only their flashlights to guide the way. Each stroke brought them deeper into a labyrinth where beauty and danger existed in equal measure. It was easy to lose oneself in the surreal landscape of twisting rock and dark corridors. But soon, something went wrong. The two divers found themselves in a narrow, uncharted tunnel, just 2.3 feet high. To this day, it remains a mystery why they ventured there. Perhaps they hoped the passage wouldn't be a dead end, or maybe they simply got lost in the labyrinth of the cave. Whatever the reason, the choice to enter this unknown tunnel would prove to be a fatal mistake. The twisting, jagged walls made each movement a struggle. With their air tanks mounted on their backs rather than on their sides, navigating the tight confines became even more challenging. The tanks scraped against the walls, dislodging silt that quickly turned the water into a milky haze. Visibility dropped to nearly zero, and the beams of their flashlights struggled to cut through the cloudy water. The further they ventured, the more the situation deteriorated. With each turn, the path grew narrower, and the water thicker with silt. The tunnel was now a maze of darkness, where any attempt to navigate felt like grasping at shadows. Panic began to creep in, clouding their judgment as they struggled to find a way out. As Barbieri and Basso ventured deeper into the narrow passage, a realization began to set in. They were in the danger zone. The confined space, the twisting turns, and the thickening silt all pointed to a situation that was quickly spiraling out of control. They knew they needed to turn back, but with the passage barely wide enough to fit their bodies, attempting to reverse course was an almost impossible task. The confined tunnel left them with little room to maneuver, and each movement stirred up more debris, further obscuring their vision. The walls seemed to close in around them, creating an overwhelming sense of claustrophobia. Even the smallest turn was met with resistance, and their equipment scraped against the rocky surface, adding to the sense of urgency. With visibility close to zero and oxygen supplies dwindling, the need to escape grew desperate. But the narrow passage seemed to wind endlessly, and every effort to retrace their steps was met with another tight turn or dead end. Panic began to creep in, and in their struggle to find a way out, Barbieri and Basso became separated, each forced down a different path in the labyrinth of darkness. As the hours passed and darkness fell over Eldudu Lagoon, a growing sense of dread settled in. Barbieri and Basso had been expected to return long before nightfall, yet there was no sign of them. Their friend, who had been waiting by the shore, began to fear the worst. The two divers had failed to resurface, and something was clearly amiss. With Barbieri and Basso still unaccounted for, the alarm was raised, and a rescue mission was swiftly organized. The urgency of the situation was clear. Every moment that passed made the chances of finding the divers alive slimmer. If you're finding this story intriguing, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating content. Philip Lehman, a skilled cave diver who knew the intricacies of Eldudu, led the rescue effort. The conditions, however, were far from ideal. The water had been stirred up by the earlier dives, and visibility was close to zero, making the search that much more difficult. The team conducted a thorough search of the main cave zone, but there was no trace of the missing divers. The only area left unexplored was the narrow, uncharted passage where Barbieri and Basso had unknowingly ventured. It was a risky decision, but laymen knew they had to check it. The rescuers knew that time was against them. With each passing minute, the chances of finding the divers alive grew slimmer. The air supply of Barbieri and Basso would have been running critically low by now, making every second count. With few options remaining, laymen led the team into the uncharted passage. The silt-filled water made progress slow and disorienting, as each movement stirred up more debris. The divers pressed on, knowing time was against them. After a full day of searching, there was still no sign of Barbieri or Basso. The rescue team had no choice but to suspend the search. Every time a diver's regulator released bubbles, it disturbed the silt, causing debris to rain down from the tunnel ceiling, further obscuring their vision. The decision was made to pause the search and wait for the silt to settle. Meanwhile, the rescue effort was bolstered by 2 cave diving specialists from Florida. Equipped with closed-circuit rebreathers that did not produce bubbles, they hoped to avoid further disturbing the delicate underwater environment. As the days passed and the silt began to clear, the team returned to the search. With the new equipment, they ventured deeper into the tunnel, determined to find any trace of the missing men. Yet despite their best efforts, the cave seemed to offer no clues. As the days stretched on, the rescuers continued their search, venturing deeper into the winding tunnels. People from the nearby communities gathered to support the efforts, bringing food and water for the divers and offering words of encouragement. But with each passing day, the reality became harder to ignore. If Barbieri and Basso had somehow found an air pocket, survival without food and fresh water would have been nearly impossible. Time was running out, and the chances of finding the 2 men alive were vanishing. But the rescue team pressed on, knowing that the search had to continue until every corner of the cave was explored. At last, the team made a grim discovery. Carlo Basso's body was found, wedged between 2 rocks in the narrow passage. The position suggested that he had tried to turn back, but in the tight confines of the tunnel, it had been nearly impossible to maneuver. In cave diving, tanks are often mounted on the sides to navigate narrow spaces, but with tanks mounted on their backs, escaping the passage proved too difficult. The recovery was delicate and took considerable effort, but eventually, Basso's body was brought to the surface. It was a somber moment, but there was still no time to rest. Barbieri remained missing, and the search had to continue. With Basso's recovery, the urgency to find Barbieri grew even stronger. The rescue team made one final push, diving deeper into the narrowest sections of the cave. Each turn brought new challenges, and the divers knew that if Barbieri was to be found, it would likely be in the most difficult-to-reach places. Eventually, the rescuers found Carlo Barbieri, his body trapped in a narrow crevice. It appeared that, like Basso, he had struggled to escape but was unable to free himself from the cave's unforgiving grasp. After several hours of delicate work, the team managed to recover Barbieri's body. The tragedy of Barbieri and Basso serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that come with exploring the unknown. Although both men were experienced divers, experts have suggested that they overlooked critical safety measures that might have prevented the fatal outcome. An Italian diver who knew both Barbieri and Basso had previously advised Basso to seek formal cave diving certification. This diver understood the unique risks of underwater caves and believed proper training could help prepare for the unexpected. However, Basso allegedly dismissed the suggestion, replying, "There is nothing you could teach me that I already didn't know." This overconfidence may have contributed to their decision to dive without taking essential precautions. One of the most significant oversights was their choice to enter the uncharted passage without setting up a proper guideline. In cave diving, a line serves as a lifeline, guiding divers back to safety, especially in conditions where visibility is compromised. Had they used a guideline, it could have helped them retrace their steps when the silt clouded the water, and they lost their sense of direction. Additionally, the configuration of their equipment may have played a role in their entrapment. In narrow passages such as the one they entered, side-mount tanks, where tanks are carried along the sides rather than on the back, are typically recommended. This setup allows divers to navigate tight spaces more easily and avoid scraping their tanks against the walls, which could dislodge silt or damage equipment. Finally, diving with someone who knew the cave well could have been a crucial safeguard. An experienced guide familiar with the cave's layout might have prevented them from entering a passage that led to a dead end. In places as complex as Eldudu, local knowledge is invaluable and can mean the difference between life and death. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the depths of Eldudu. If you found this story meaningful, please like and subscribe to Shadows of Tragedy for more stories that explore the thin line between adventure and danger.